How to make money using n8n. Ways to get first client. Provide value. Welcome to this webinar. So we're going to talk about Airtop first, why you might use Airtop for web automation, how to get started, and then talk about n8n integration and how to build more complex workflows that involve web agents. Airtop's easiest way to build web agents, all you have to do is basically type out what you want to automate, and the interface looks like this. So like, I want to automate stuff. And then be more specific than that, but then it'll start building the automation for you. You can automate pretty much any website. So it has a cloud browser that can go to websites, click on things, log in, fill out forms, etc. And you can run multiple agents at once. It's not dependent on your own computer's browser. It's all up there in the cloud, very scalable. Using Airtop, like I said, you just chat with this agent builder, and then it asks clarification questions to make sure that it's creating the thing that you actually want to make. It does research to figure out how to make the automation, creates the automation, and then tests the automation, and then you deploy it, and you can run that automation whenever or put it in n8n workflows. So what should you automate with Airtop? Stuff that's repetitive, stuff that you do fairly often, every day, once a week, maybe once a month. It's not really for one-off automations because a lot of the resources go into building the actual automation. So if you have things that you need to do quite often that are, boring, repetitive, filling things out, scraping information from this place or that place, that's the good use case for Airtop. If you need to do something one time, you should probably just do it yourself or use ChatGPT or some other solution. We're more about scalability and repetition. So some use cases, LinkedIn lead generator. This basically looks at a list of LinkedIn profiles, looks at the top posts that they have, and then people engaging with those people or those topics. It puts those people in a spreadsheet because they're talking about things that you might want to sell them about. Instagram profile scraper, this logs in to Instagram and then views public profiles and adds them to a spreadsheet, and then scrapes everything it can to that sheet. So we had a client who was doing this manually constantly, and this you just update the sheet with long list of Instagram profiles, and it does it all automatically. Customer support analysis. This basically takes in a bunch of comments in your support platform or Slack or wherever, and then condenses everything down into key insights and creates a Google Doc out of that. Filling out web forms, this is what I talked about previously. So you can make an agent that takes a bank of information that you give it, either uploading a PDF of your resume or reading from a spreadsheet or some other database, and then can log into places and fill out forms for you, or fill them out on public websites. Monitor competitors' activity. This basically, you enter in a list of companies in a spreadsheet that you want to be on top of, and then it will look at all the stuff they're doing on social media and elsewhere, and then provide you a summary of what's going on with them. Airtop integrations, like most platforms, we have a lot of built-in integrations: Airtable, Google Docs, Google Mail, HubSpot, Slack. Not as many as n8n. n8n has literally thousands, but we have the key ones. It can search the web. It can look at LinkedIn without you having to log in. Slack integrations, Google Calendar, et cetera, et cetera. For LinkedIn, for the integration, you don't have to be logged in. So that just can search everything public on LinkedIn, but you can also do stuff that requires a login. So the agent can log in to LinkedIn, and it can either do stuff on your behalf or find information about people, manage your connections, things like that. Logging into website portals is probably the most useful thing with Airtop. So basically, you can log in, it saves your login information, and then you can do stuff behind walls and on websites that don't have APIs. And that's the key thing. If a tool doesn't have an API, then Airtop can log into that tool and use it for you. Proxies and profiles. I'll hand it off to Caesar.
So there's actually one question about profiles in the chat. The question is, how does Airtop handle username and password? Well, we use profiles for that. The main purpose of profiles is to persist artifacts generated during browsing session. And I'm talking about cookies, browser storage, and this functionality is not only helpful for maintaining your authentication on websites, but also for preventing bot detection, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. If your profile contains cookies and data from various websites, it makes your browsing session appear more genuine, indicating that it's a human user rather than a bot. Although it's not 100% guaranteed that by using profiles, your browser won't be detected as bot, but it helps. So that's the main purpose with profiles. And I would like to talk about another feature that complements profiles, which is proxy. Airtop also provides proxies for web browsing. If anyone is not familiar with proxies, just to put it in simple terms, a proxy is a server in some country that lets you load pages through their API address. When should you set up? When should you set a proxy in Airtop? When you need to load a website from a different country, or when you need to use a residential IP. Some websites will block you if they detect an IP from a data center. So another reason why to use proxies for example, Instagram is one of those websites. And I just want to mention finally that these two features are commonly used together to work with websites with strong bot detection. And yeah, so that's a brief overview on profiles and proxy. If anyone has any other following question, please ask.
Great. So I'm going to show you where to find that in Airtop. So when you've built an agent, you can set up a proxy by clicking this gear icon, go to proxy, go to integrated, and just choose the country and use that. Or if you have your own proxy you want to use, then there's a custom option as well. And for browser profiles, you find them here. You can also clear cookies and website data for this agent. But to set up a browser profile, you go to this panel, profiles. Yeah, here it is. So just create a new profile to give a profile to a specific agent that has the things you need, like logins, etc. Okay. The easiest way to get started is using templates. So we have about 75 templates to choose from on various topics: marketing automation, sales automation, this and that. So go to airtop.ai/templates, choose one from here if there's one that suits your needs, and then you can chat with the agent builder to adapt the template. And this is faster because all the automation code has already been written, and all you have to do is adapt it. Whereas when you start building a new agent, then it takes a bit longer. Anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour, depending on how complicated the automation is. But this is the fastest way to get started if there's a template that exists, and also uses fewer credits. So from scratch, you just type out what you want to automate, start simple, then work with the agent builder to fine tune it and to give it all the information that you need. And then after you've built the agent, then you can either schedule it in Airtop, or you can trigger it with n8n or other integrations like Zapier. So with writing prompts, start simple, clear and concise, mention what you want to do. So log into my account at this website, search leads from the last 2 hours, research company size, then send me a Slack message if the sales lead is from a company with more than 50 people. If you're using n8n, I would more offload things like Slack to n8n because then you have more versatility, and just have Airtop focus on the web automation type stuff, like logging in and clicking and doing this and that. Working with the agent builder, it'll ask for permission to do stuff, and we promise it won't do anything. I don't know if I can promise that. Yeah, I can promise that it won't do anything crazy. It'll ask before it does pretty much anything. You can stop it if it's doing the wrong thing and redirect it. And it'll ask you clarification questions if it's not sure what you want to do. And it's pretty good at realizing that your request is ambiguous or it needs certain information, just asking you to provide it that information. Running your agent, you can either schedule it with the schedule trigger. You can use webhooks, and you can also run it manually. So running manually, just click this run button, fill in the parameters, and you can adjust agents to require certain parameters or not require certain parameters. That's just the information that the agent needs to run. Like if you're trying to research a specific company, That'd be the company name or domain. And you can also narrow down what the agent is doing with these parameters. So there are optional parameters and required ones, but running an agent manually, you just fill out these fields. You can also analyze every run by going to this little guy here, and you can see everything that the agent did on a particular run. And if it did stuff on the web, it'll show you a screen recording of what it did on the web. So this is mostly for if something isn't going quite right, you can watch what it's doing, and then you can tell it what to fix. Okay, and now the meat and potatoes of this session, n8n integration. So you can run any Airtop agent once it's built in any n8n workflow. You can also chain agents together. Using Airtop with n8n means that you can trigger from a lot of different things. Anything that you can trigger in n8n, Slack, web forms, chatbots, a lot of stuff. If you use n8n, thousands of integrations. You can then trigger an entire automation of which Airtop is a part, and then use the output of the Airtop agent to pass information to further nodes. If you're using Airtop in n8n, it's a good idea to ask it to output a structured JSON package, which, if you don't know, is just, if it's a lot of information, just structures it in a way that you can pass individual fields to individual nodes. So if you're asking it to research everything about a company, every little piece of information, you can just pass that to a field in a different node. All right, so let's do a live demo. I think we will start simple. The Airtop agent that we're working with is this agent that generates a comprehensive company research and outputs a JSON package with a ton of research. So it looks at a company domain, that's the input, and then it researches the company's website, scripts everything from there, conducts research all around the web, on LinkedIn, social media, news, and it compiles a dossier of information that you can work with. And you can either then summarize that, or you can output everything or do whatever you want with it. So to use an agent in n8n, I've created just a simple trigger here with a form submission where you just enter in the company domain you want to research, and then you can pass that domain to the agent. To put the agent in n8n, you can either do it the slow way by selecting Airtop and then run an agent and then fill this all out, or the much faster way, going to your agent page, go to connect, and then copy node. Then you copy the node, you just paste the node in n8n, and then everything is already filled out for you. So it fills in the webhook, it fills in all the parameters, and then you can pass the parameter from the last step, which was the web form, where you entered in your company website you want to research. Just plug that into here, and then it will run the agent when you trigger the flow. So that's the basics of setting up an agent. To get fancier with it, and with n8n, you can always get fancier. So here's a flow that uses this agent right here. So it's triggered by a Slack assistant. You just tag an Airtop assistant, research n8n. You send that message, and then the flow starts to run. The first step is ChatGPT takes in the Slack message. So you don't have to be super specific. You don't have to just put in the specific domain, which is the input that the agent needs. You can just type whatever, as long as it's somehow asking to research a company. This node identifies which company you're asking about, finds the domain, because we plugged in the Slack message here. And then if it doesn't mention a domain, if you're like, hey, assistant, what's up? Then it will basically figure that out with this if-then step. And then if it's confused, it'll ask for clarification. So let's take a look at that. It was obvious, so it's right now running the agent. But if we say at n8n Airtop assistant, yo, what it do? Then it'll be like, you must be confused. So this is what I do, and it'll give you a form to fill out where you actually just enter in the domain to pass directly to the agent. It'll wait for your response there, and then it will go from that to a success message on Slack, and then it will trigger the agent in this branch of the flow and pass whatever you put in the form to the agent. This particular agent does a lot of stuff, so it takes about 5 minutes to complete. But once it does, this next ChatGPT step, this agent is outputting a JSON package, and you can't just send a JSON object to Slack. So this is just a ChatGPT node that takes in the JSON package and formats everything as a Slack message so that it's not just nonsense. It organizes it for you, but it still includes all the data. And here's a previous one. So the agent ran for this company called Clay. It found just the general description, the industry, employee count, headquarters, LinkedIn URL, target customers, total funding, their website messaging and positioning, what it's trying to do, who its customers are. Also researches its main competitors and gives information on them, and then looks up recent news articles, and then funding rounds, jobs that are open, a ton of stuff. So you can, if you don't want all that information, you just need a company summary because you're about to have a sales call. Then a much simpler version is all it does is take in the JSON and then shrinks the information to a much shorter message. Yeah, so 2 ways to do that. Well, there's 1,000 ways to do that. But yeah. Okay. And you can also expand this. So I'm working on an n8n flow that has multiple agents where you can ask it a variety of questions. So like research a person, research a company, make dinner reservations, add something to my calendar, and then it will have ChatGPT determine what you're trying to do and also figure out what output it needs to send to which particular agent, and then it will send that to the correct agent. It'll run, and then you'll get a response back for that. So you could make like your own Jarvis if you had a free evening and you wanted to be a total nerd, or if it was valuable to stuff you're doing at your company. So, any questions?
There are a few questions in the chat that
Okay.
I can take some of those. Nick asks, does Airtop handle username and password credentials? How is that stored? Well, it's important to mention that Airtop does not store your credentials. We persist the browser state after you sign in. So for example, if you go to a browser in someone else's computer and you sign into your Instagram account and you don't click on save credentials, you are still able to navigate through Instagram because the authentication status was persisted in your browser. So that's the same mechanism that Airtop does. It's a browser in the cloud. We don't keep your credentials. We just persist the browsing artifacts and the navigation cookies and session storage that work for keep you authenticating in websites. So feel free that we don't keep your username and password. And does it handle MFA? The agent doesn't support MFA automatically. We do have a workflow. I think it's an n8n, sorry, that if it detects that you have a MFA screen, or for example, if it detects that Instagram is asking you for a website, you can trigger another workflow that updates the profile. So yeah, it's more complicated. It's possible, but I think you will need a little bit of help of the support. And well, I'm from support, by the way. So if you want to set up this workflow, please send an email to support. And is every country listed? I don't think it's every country listed, but I do check right now, and Nicaragua is listed, and it works. So I created a session from Nicaragua without problem. Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to answer anything else, or is there any other question that I might take?
Somebody wants an example of template usage. So to use a template, let's use an Instagram. Scrape Instagram profiles. Press try agent. Grant permissions. And if you want to keep everything basically the same, then you don't have to do much. I think it tests itself once more. We will test with, got to go to Slack channel, and create a new Google Sheet. And then once you put in your information, so the Slack channel, you just send it to a test case, and then ask it to create a new Google Sheet. It'll go through its thing. It'll ask you to log into Instagram. See if I remember my password for this demo account. I'm not a robot. And then you might have some captchas.
Jordan, did you activate the proxy?
I did not.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is actually a good example to demonstrate the usefulness of the proxy. Do you want to show how to turn on the proxy?
Integrated United States save change.
And it will restart the session.
Yep. And now it won't like bother us with those captchas.
And you can, if you want to leave an agent, you just come back. It remembers everything you did, and then you just start from.
That's one of my favorite features.
Any more questions in the chat in the meantime?
I think they're asking if the meeting will be recorded and uploaded to YouTube.
Yes, it will. Now it just works. Now it should look for Taylor Swift. Done. So now it's going to the test page, Taylor Swift. It's going to scrape this data. It's going to create a Google Sheet that has all the data that's scraped. And then later we can just add new profiles to the first column of that sheet. And then whenever we run it, it will check and see if it's already run one, and it'll fill out all the rest. Yeah, so that's how you use templates. Pretty simple. You just click try agent, and then it'll ask you some questions, mostly things where it needs to be customized specifically to you. You can also change it, but if you're trying to take one template and turn it into like a totally different thing, it's easier just to start with a new agent. When this is done, we would deploy it, and then you can, for instance, drop it in n8n flow, or you can schedule it. Thanks everybody for joining. I will put in my email if you have more questions. And thanks, n8n, for joining as well. And thank you, Cesar. Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
You've been
Thanks,
wonderful.
everybody. Take care.
Guys, we got a question in Q&A. How can I make my own GPT through n8n? Meaning your own
Yeah, you should
chatbot?
use Ola.
Yeah, that's very doable. They have tools for that, right?
Yep. You can just self-host any open source models as you like via Olama, or even if you want to do it online, you can use Hugging Face and fine-tune your GPT as you like.
But if you mean how do I make my own AI model, well, first you need about $10 billion, and then and then a few years, and a limited amount of training data. And in workflows for job search, I have something like that. Job search is easy. Applying to jobs is possible with Airtop, but that's an area that gets pretty tricky. It's actually a pretty complicated task. I'll talk about this while we wait for more people to show up. So I made in Airtop an autofiller for job applications, but just to test it, basically I made my own job application website. And then I made a form where you can upload the job application site, and then your resume, and then it takes everything from your resume, uses that to fill out the form, and it even will take the role description and answer questions based on the resume and the role description. So that's possible to do. It is a bit tricky. This is new technology. But yeah. How to make money using n8n. Money. Ways to get first client. Provide value. If you build it, they will come.